Bungie just released a massive State of the Game article for August 2023 with over 6,000 words. In this video, we're going to recap everything you need to know, and there is a lot. Crucible updates with new maps and modes, Gambit, game security, seasonal structure, quality of life changes, sandbox updates, and tons more. Timestamps will be down below if you'd like to skip to a certain point. So this is the state of the game for August 2023. Joe Blackburn, game director of Destiny 2, along with other folks from the team, have combined their heads together to make this giant post. They say right now the team is focusing on making sure the final shape and the seasons leading up to it are incredible. So for the rest of this update, you'll be hearing from a bunch of different voices that all contributed to this mid-year state of the game. First up, we have ritual updates. With Season of the Deep, they've upgraded the weekly ritual challenge rewards to exotic engrams to give everyone consistent sources of materials to focus the exact armor they want to run. In Season 22, they're updating those weekly ritual requirements so players can complete their 9 challenges in any ritual playlist they'd like, as opposed to having to complete 3 across Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit playlists. They'll also be increasing the frequency of ritual engram drops after completing ritual activities, and they're making the latest ritual loot pool weapons focusable at the respective vendors at the start of the season for the first time. They're also loading up the ritual vendors with fresh weapons for next season, including the upending Tempest Stasis submachine gun in the Crucible, the Luna Regolith 3 solar sniper rifle in Strikes, a Quazoffin 5 void machine gun in Gambit, Cataphract Strand grenade launcher in Trials of Osiris, and tons more. This is how they're making the core rituals more rewarding overall, but what are they doing in each specific area? Let's start with Crucible. Over the past few seasons, Bungie has implemented some things into PvP, Fireteam Matchmaking Improvements, new rotator playlist, PvP specific weapon tuning, and so on. However, they know more hardcore PvP players want more maps, fewer cheaters, and an ever-evolving meta that feels good to compete in. To set expectations, Bungie's studio structure is built to support the more overarching updates to PvP like the ones we just mentioned, rather than focusing exclusively on maps. When they do focus resources on building new Crucible maps, it comes with the trade-off of multiple teams' bandwidths on work that contributes to a variety of experiences, such as new story or exotic mission content. With that being said, they have some exciting content coming to PvP this month that several teams have brought to life, as well as an update to their advances in game security to combat cheaters, a preview of upcoming sandbox shakeups, and more details coming next week on how the general PvP sandbox will evolve. For Season 22, there is a new Vex Network themed map, a new Relic 6v6 mode, the gunplay-focused Checkmate modifier for multiple modes, a new competitive Ascendant Division emblem, and more. Relic and Checkmate will both kick off in Crucible labs throughout the season so they can gather feedback on how they are received. On screen you can see a look at the new map called Multiplex. This is an asymmetrical map using a Vex environment as a backdrop that could work well for multiple game modes. With the Vex network playing such a crucial role in the story during Lightfall's year, we felt now is the perfect time to deliver this map. Something that's interesting, they say narratively the space is in the middle of compiling the Infinite Forest. So that is what you'll see in action. Watch for footage of this new map in the Destiny 2 showcase. So that makes me wonder, with all these planets returning with different seasons, is Mercury next, and will it involve the Infinite Forest, or is this just for the Crucible map? You heard me mention Checkmate and the Relic mode. Here's what Checkmate is. Checkmate is a modifier where rich primary weapon fights can happen more often, and gun skill can be augmented by communication and strong positioning. Primary weapon damage has been tuned to feel different than the rest of the game without being jarring, reducing the gap between the faster killing weapons and average time to kill, and in general pushing longer range primaries into slower killing profiles. Player health has been increased, all ability cooldowns are lengthened, and special ammunition must be earned via gameplay and is not dropped upon death. Checkmate will be available in Crucible Labs from week 5 to week 10. They'll first start with 2 weeks of Checkmate Control, then switch it up with 2 weeks of Checkmate Survival. finally 2 weeks of Checkmate Rumble to finish off its trial run for Season 22. Relic is a 6v6 party mode where players wreak havoc and destruction on their foes with relic weapons. So yeah, relics including the Aegis from Vault of Glass, the Synaptic Spear from Season of the Risen, and the Scythe from Season of the Haunted. Each player charges their personal relic energy by defeating opponents with their normal loadout. Upon reaching full charge, players can acquire a relic from a relic depot. Defeating relic holders and using the relics to defeat opponents earns points for the team. Whereas Checkmate is heavily focused on gunfights, Relic is intended to provide lighthearted gameplay that can be enjoyed by anyone, similar to Mayhem and Team Scorched. Relic will be available in Crucible Labs from week 1 to week 4 and again in week 11. Personally, I love to see this. Back in the day, Bungie had so many awesome playlists in the Halo franchise, and it's cool to see some of those more lighthearted, as they mentioned, modes return. Matchmaking Improvements. Season 22, they're modifying the loose skill-based matchmaking settings for Control and Iron Banner. These new settings will look to improve matchmaking times and experiences for players who find themselves at the upper or lower ends of the skill spectrum, and for those playing in low population regions or times. The team is also adding loose fireteam matchmaking to the Crucible rotators, including labs, to ensure players are being evenly matched against similar fireteam sizes without the need for a freelance mode. Looking further ahead, they're planning to deliver a new Iron Banner mode for Season 23, along with a brand new Hake aggressive frame Strand Pulse Rifle as their newest competitive division weapon reward. The Mercurial Overreach Adaptive Frame Arc Sniper Rifle will remain available for competitors throughout Season 22. As a reminder, they're also focusing their map reprisal efforts on porting the Citadel from 2018 to Crucible in Season 23. Next, let's move on to the Vanguard. The Vanguard playlists are currently in a solid place with a healthy population, but they do have some more additions coming up. First up, Vanguard Medals. Vanguard Medals will be available in Vanguard Ops and Nightfall starting in Season 22. After first being introduced in last year's Guardian games and their continued success in this year's event, we've decided to bring them in full time to spice things up in our Vanguard activities. Medals will contribute to scoring, allowing players to attain higher scores and reputation multipliers by performing unique actions and doing cool things. The goal is to reward players for playing well, and not require players to go out of their way to grind for score. In short, they don't want you to feel like you have to compromise your build in order to boost your score with additional medals. Some of the medals from Guardian games will not transfer over to Vanguard playlists, so don't expect finishers to grant you medals in Nightfalls. There will be some new medals though specific to Vanguard playlists, and you can expect to see a few more in Season 23. Bungie says they've also recently focused more of the team's resources into more varied and frequent seasonal activities, such as Battlegrounds, that can later make their way into Vanguard playlists across the strikes and eventually serve as new additions to Nightfall and Grandmaster playlists. While this can come at a cost of other content in a given year, they feel this exchange has been worth the extra investment for the overall health of the playlists. As a result, they have additional Battlegrounds coming to the Nightfall and Grandmaster Nightfall rotations in Season 22 and 23. Let's next talk about some Gambit. Bungie says, although we know the Gambit fans mostly care about new or returning maps, this is an area of the game with lower engagement that would take resources away from more popular parts of the game. While they don't have plans to dedicate more resources to significantly transform Gambit, they do have a few updates planned for the year of the final shape. These include porting Cathedral of Scars map and its beautiful Dreaming City setting into the latest version of Destiny 2, as well as adding the Shadow Legion and Lucent Hive enemy types. Before then, they're making Gambit entirely optional to maximize your rewards unless you're looking for a piece of gear that's specific to a mode. Gambit will continue to serve as a source for exotic engrams via those weekly challenges. They're also reducing the number of Gambit-specific seasonal challenges starting in Season 22, so players won't need to bank motes in order to earn that big purse of bright dust for completing nearly every challenge in the season. Finally, they're adding Fireteam matchmaking to Gambit next season, which will replace the freelance node and should result in faster, better matchmaking by combining both the Gambit playlists. So overall, they don't have a ton of resources focused into Gambit, but there are some new additions coming, like porting that map from Forsaken, removing some of those seasonal challenges, yes, but if you do love Gambit, you'll be able to jump in there for those ritual rewards instead. Now we have an update in armor set rewards. A long time ago, they shared a plan to address concerns on reward balance. Players pointed out that they didn't release a new armor set for the ritual playlists when Nightfall released, as previously called out in their yearly release schedule. At this time, Bungie is amending their delivery plans for how often they refresh these sets and will no longer be creating a new set for every expansion. Apparently, these sets have a historically low adoption rate among players, both for the base armor and cosmetic ornaments. However, they are prioritizing the delivery of a new ritual armor set alongside the final shape to infuse some new looks you'll be able to show off from your time in the Crucible, Vanguard, or Gambit. They also have a new armor set for trials releasing in a few short weeks. Here's a preview. Moving on, we talk about game security. Over the course of the year, they've invested further in data science and machine learning, building confidence in the detections they produce. These tools allow them to observe and evaluate player behavior in new ways and issue an increasing number of actions in response. In addition, they've continued to adapt new policies to protect players, including the Abuse of External Accessibility Tools policy. Next to that, working with BattleEye to address network manipulation tools, improving data collection, detection, and mitigation strategies. Because of these changes, they were recently able to issue one of the largest ban waves in history against account recovery and boosting services, and players who use those services. So what's next for the security of Destiny 2? Bungie will continue to evolve their prevention, detection, and ban hammer capabilities, but these are just a part of the overall strategy to combat cheating efforts. The legal teams are aggressively pursuing cheat makers across the globe in an effort to remove the source of cheat software before it's distributed. They've been highly effective in both uncovering cheat makers and bringing litigation against them, though the preparation and execution of these lawsuits take time and effort to be successful. As always, Bungie says they receive countless messages from banned accounts that state they don't remember cheating. When they investigate these cases, they often find that they gave their account to someone else to play the game for them. They want to remind everyone that you must protect your account and not use recovery services. The Stability Update section talks about the stability of Destiny 2's overall service. We got an article about this in late June and nothing really more is mentioned here. They talked about the claim system, explained it back then, and they're still working toward those changes. In Season 22, they'll begin to do internal chaos testing using new code and continue this research into Season 23, helping to protect against stability issues that might occur in the future. So this is a long-term process, of course, but the goal is to improve the stability of the game. If you'd like to read all of this, definitely check out the article. Seasonal structure. As mentioned back in February, Bungie's been working behind the scenes to shake up the seasonal paradigm this year to subvert player expectations and make each season feel unique. They say they'll talk about this in a bit, but they're giving themselves more freedom to stretch narratively and in gameplay systems throughout Season 22 and 23. So not really mentioning how yet, we'll probably see that in the showcase, but Season 22 and 23 is the start of these seasonal changes. Everybody loves quality of life upgrades and this article's got them. Cosmetic favoriting. At long last, you'll be able to pin up to 100 of your favorite shaders, ornaments, and emotes to the top of the list starting in Season 22. This one's huge. I don't know how many times I'm searching forever to find a specific shader. Now you can just pin those to the front and equip them at your will. Stasis aspects and fragments moved to the vendor system. If you've completed Beyond Light's campaign, you'll be able to acquire all available stasis aspects and fragments from Elsie Bray on Europa starting next season. Transmats will now be unlocks. Like shaders before them, transmats will now be stored as unlocks on your account rather than consumable items. Wishender Pursuit improvements. The Wishender quest has gone through a number of changes throughout the years, and in Season 22 it becomes a real quest, No more charged or uncharged discs sitting in your inventory, just a single quest strand in your log. Resources tab added to collections. This tab will show you all of the currencies, upgrade materials, and engrams in the game, appropriately categorized with information on how to acquire it, as well as what to do with it once you have it. Iron Banner Changes split. Starting in Season 22, Iron Banner will have 2 different stacking challenges each day. One for players who just want the reputation multiplier, which does not require using specific seasonal subclasses, and one for players who are going after their pinnacle rewards, which does require using seasonal subclasses. And lastly, ritual rank ups immediately. Sandbox update starts with new Strand Aspects. At the start of next season, they're adding 3 new Strand Aspects to enhance the Strand kit of each class by adding a unique dynamic gameplay element. Whirling Maelstrom for the Hunter, Banner of War for Titans, and Weave Walk for the Warlocks. Stay tuned for more info as we get closer to the launch of the season. Similar to some exotic revamps in Season of the Deep, the team is working to launch another batch of underused exotic armor pieces in Season 22, to shake things up and give players a new reason to dive into their vaults. Next week, a new Developer Insights article will go live with some of those changes. Apparently, new weapon subfamilies are incoming. They don't mention much, but they'll be introducing entirely new weapon subfamilies with the final shape. These will be talked about more August 22nd in that showcase. Bungie released a massive mid-season weapon tuning update article. If you didn't read this, there's going to be a massive shakeup in the sandbox for Season 22 in the form of decoupling damage falloff from range. The high-low goals are this: reduce the variance between the optimal engagement ranges for our mid-range weapons like auto rifles, pulses, and hand cannons. Then slightly reduce the average engagement range in Crucible by pulling in the maximum damage falloff distances of many weapons. To do this, the highest achievable damage falloff range on almost all weapons will be reduced by some extent. And then, in many cases, the lower edge of their damage falloff ranges will be coming up. In addition, they have a lot of other things to look forward to in Season 22. This is not a comprehensive list, but wanted to give us a sneak peek. Hand cannons will see an increase in reload speeds and PvE damage buffs against minor and major enemies. Sword full power heavy attacks will be usable with any non-zero amount of sword energy, and sword guarding is being buffed in several areas. Touch of Malice is getting some tweaks they think players will enjoy, and perks such as Bipod, Envious Assassin, and Under Over will become much more useful in next season. And that's basically it for the bulk of the news. They say reinforcing their goals for this year. Expand players' imaginations. They did this in some new ways like deep dive activities and fishing in Season of the Deep. And without spoiling anything ahead in the showcase, next season we'll dive into creative territories we've never explored before. They're changing some things up in big ways, including the seasonal progression paradigm with an all-new mechanic. They speak about Lightfall's story, and while most of us players would have liked to seen some of those answers in the actual Lightfall campaign, they still believe the totality of this year's narratives will set the stage for the final shape in ways that a single story beat never could. And to put concerns to rest now, the final shape and its raid will provide a climactic conclusion to the Light and Darkness saga before we look ahead to what comes next in Destiny 2. Bungie has some plans to replace some bounties with a more rewarding and engaging system tentatively called the Pathfinder, which you can see here. The fourth and final pillar here is connecting our Guardians. Season 22 will include new ways to experience key in-game moments in Destiny 2's history. Season 23 will introduce the upcoming LFG feature into the game. Next to that, they'll have much more to show us in the showcase. But Guardians, that concludes this massive article with most of the things outlined here. If you'd like to read it again, it'll be linked down below, and I thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see some more Destiny news, lore, and mysteries, be sure to check out the channel, and I'll catch you all in the next video.